Wednesday, January 11th. Those of you at home, this is going to be a kind of short-ish video. I'm just sort of introducing how the speech works. You don't get to watch the actual speeches, except for one. You will get a chance to watch in a moment. But the other ones you will not, and we'll talk about that. The rest of you, welcome. Let's see what we have. We will get to volunteers here coming up. The volunteers does go off of B points. If two kids both volunteer, whoever has more points gets to go. If you have a bunch of B points, that does not mean you have to go. It just means if you decide you want to go, you get to cut in front of me. We do have the Fable Notes quiz coming up on Friday. I have updated this. It has yesterday's quiz on there. And then it also has your updated B points through yesterday on there. So all of that should be updated to help you. Quiz-wise, I don't hate you, and it was the first grade. So I bottom capped it. The lowest grade was a D-, regardless of how bad you did on it. And 2, I took it out of 8 points as opposed to 9. So if you got an 8 on it, you got an A.
Oh, is that why
if you got higher than an 8, you got like an A+. And then hopefully that made things a little bit easier on you. So when we get to Friday's quiz, you're not quite as destroyed. So you can check that later if you have not checked it yet. So I tried to update that because I don't want you guys to get beat by your parents already. If you missed the quiz yesterday, I will have you probably take it tomorrow, but I didn't want kids missing the directions today. So we'll get to that in case you were wrong.
Yeah.
Let me explain speechy things. If you're home and watching this, you'll do the speechy thing when you come back to live, but at least this way you won't be as confused. The way speechy thing is going to work, you are going to have 45 seconds where you are going to tell us a story. It does not have to be a fable. It is literally any story you want to tell about your life or about a book or just whatever kind of thing you want it to be. You can retell us the story like as there was a boy with a scar on his head who lived under the stairs and an evil man with no nose had a stick and kept trying to cast spells at him. That's fine. Or you can tell us about that one time you went to the zoo as a kid and you put your fingers to the little thing and the antelope tried to eat your finger. However story you want to do, it can be true, it can be made up, does not matter to me. I'm just looking for you to tell a story. I am going to give you a word that you have to use during your story. And again, it could be any noun, verb, adjective, big, jump. I'm trying to think of ones I did earlier today. Grumpy, happy, fall, break, stuff like that. So those are the words I'm looking for you to use. You can put endings on word. If I give you jump, you can do jump, jumps, jumping, jumping rope, jumped. So any of that's fine. If I give you room, you can do roommate, living room. So anything that has that word room in it is fine with me. If you don't like your word, you are more than welcome to get a new word, but it costs you 2 B points each time. So if you get the word, I don't know, penguin, and you hate penguins and you can't fit it into your story, spend 2 B points and I'll give you a new one. How many times can you do that? Until you run out of B points. So eventually you're either going to be out of B points or a big pile of tears. So just find a word that works for you at some point. Now we're going to flip it around. There we go. I'll stand up here.
Oh, we're standing?
It works. So here's how you give speech. You will give speech from over here, just like kid trying to get in the camera who's going to end up losing 12 points this week because he's already on the roll. You're going to find the fact that there's an X on chair and there is an X on ground. You stand on X on chair and it has to be above that X. So in case like it gets moved, you're not going to stand next to camera to give speech. That'd be creepy. Just move it so it's above the X. And then you will stand up here during your speech. For this one, we are working on how well you can be like body posture during a speech. That's why you're up here, so we can see you. What I'm looking for is no hands in pockets during speech. So if your hands go into pockets, I will go pockets in the middle of your speech, and you have to pull hands out of pockets. If you're wearing a hoodie and hands go into hoodie pockets, I'm also going to go pockets, and your hands have to come out of pockets. If you're paranoid, then you can just T-pose during the entire thing and keep your hands way out to the side, and that's fine with me too. Or if you're a hand talker, you're more than welcome to talk with your hands if that's fine. The other thing I'm going to have you guys doing while you're up here is you cannot rock back and forth. 1, it's bad speech posture. 2, you're going to fall to your death. If you're up here and you're trying to make like the chair ollie like a skateboard, and you're like, ha ha, and rocking back and forth, and I yell rocking at you, it does not mean you're doing a good job and you're like, yeah, it means you're rocking back and forth. Stop doing it. So don't move back and forth and wiggle, because if you do, you're going to fall, and even if you try to fall on Cameron, he may be squishier than the floor, but it's still going to hurt. So try not to fall. Have I had kids fall? Absolutely. Kids are dumb. Happens all the time. Just try not to make it you. You want to be the kid that watches other kids fall. So while you're up here, if you have questions, we're going to get you in just a moment. So the pockets, rocking, bad stance. Then, while you're giving your speech, things that kids have complained about that counts as cheating, you cannot whisper your word during your speech. If you have the word dinosaur, you can't go, I was walking down the street, I went behind this house, and I was like, oh my God, look at that, it's a giant dinosaur. And I was like, how can you see that? If we can't hear your word, we can't write it down for a guess. So we have to hear your word. The other thing you can't do is you can't list words, because kids have complained about that being cheating. As in, I was walking down the street, and then I saw behind this house there was a dinosaur, a cowboy, a banana, a fish, a dog, and then you list like 50 things, and you're like, it was somewhere in there. If you put your word in a list, I'm going to go, list, in the middle of your speech. That tells the entire class your word was in that list. And you have to use your word again during your speech. If not, you're going to lose points. So no listing, no whispering. Beyond that, you should be good to go. You are speaking for, well, now back up. You are on chair for 45 seconds, regardless of how much time you spend speaking. Some of you are only going to speak for 4 seconds because you're going to freak out up here. You're going to go, I hate speeches. I hate all of you. Dinosaur. And you're just going to stand here. For the next 41 seconds, it's just awkward because you don't get to get down. So you're just going to sit there and watch the timer, and we're going to watch you, and you're just going to go. And it's going to be weird, but we're going to get through it because you're standing here for the full 45 seconds. And the goal is to try and get you used to talking and being up in front of the room. For you guys, it gets tough because you cannot talk during a speech. And it's really hard not to talk when it's 40-some seconds of a kid just awkwardly standing on a chair. The natural part of you wants to say something because it's weird, but you can't. You just have to sit there and stare at them and just embrace the awkwardness. So try not to talk to them while they're up here. You also cannot go longer than 45 seconds. As soon as it hits 45 seconds, I make you stop. If you've not said your word yet, you lose, and you're going to lose B points. So make sure you say your word. You'll see the timer. It's going to be that giant screen in front of you, so it's hard to miss. It'll be a giant timer counting down. So make sure you say your word. If you're partway through a story and it gets to 45 seconds, you just stop right in the middle of your story, and that makes it fun from there. Other than that, you're going to stay on chair even after the 45 seconds, because you have to stay up here. We're going to write down a thing, and then we're going to clap for you. Clap, clap, clap. And then you're going to say what your word is. Then you get down. So you're up here for like a minute and a half. So get used to all of that awkwardness. For you guys, during speeches, do not talk during speeches. It'll be tempting at times because the kid up here may like, I hate speeches. Do you hate speeches? Come on, talk. And they're going to try and get you to talk because they're nervous and freaking out and they want you to die with them. Don't. Just stare at them and blink. Don't talk during speeches. If you figure out the word, you are going to get excited because you get B points every time you figure out a kid's word. I don't mind you being excited. Do not be the kid that jumps out of your seat. That's annoying because you're sitting during speeches and I'm like, where is dinosaur? And you're like, just me? Loser! I'm going to get annoyed. So you can just be excited. Just don't jump out of your seat like, it's going to make me have to hurt you. Questions before I get to my next part. I know you guys kept raising hands at me. We're good.
Are we gonna do this tomorrow too?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Get a calendar, James.
Let's go. I can't see it. Good.
Aha, there we go. Looking at green sheet. It's the best roller coaster ever.
Wait, Mr. Brovicast, I got a question.
Me too. I have to wait. I give you a chance.
I'm
On your green sheet, 1, you have written name at the top because you're responsible. 2, Write my name in the number 1 spot because I am going to give you your first speechy example and you're going to try and figure out my word.
Oh, thank you.
As we go through, you're going to write each kid's name down on this list as we go through there. So as we come up with each name, you'll write them down as they volunteer. When you guess a kid's word, you'll just write it next to them. You only get 1 word per kid. So when Robin's going, you can't write down fish, taco, cowboy, bong. You can't just keep living like, I'm going to get it right because I put down 20. You get 1. That's it. So you write down your 1 word and you're going to show it to someone who is nearby you. So from there, you just have to turn and show it to someone. And then make sure all of this is written in pen. Again, that's from the past kids who have complained, because that way it prevents kids from like erasing their word and then changing it to a different thing. If it's written in pen, you should be good to go. So make sure everything's written in pen. James?
What if I wait till the end, like after you say what the speech is? I could just write it down then.
You could. The trick, we'll get to that in a second. Trust me, we've got all that covered for those cheaty kids. Years of cheaty kids before you. So
I
way
also
it'll
have
work.
an erasable pen.
The way it'll work is that when I give speech, you then have 15 seconds to write down what you think the word was. You then have to show it to someone nearby. It doesn't have to be the kid right next to you. It could be the kid behind you or in front of you, but someone has to see your word. If no one can verify your word, you can't win. If I get done, I'm like, the word was dinosaur. And James raises his hands like, I had dinosaur. I go, James, who did you show? And he'll go, then you get no points. If he goes, I showed Mia. I go, Mia, did you see his word? And if Mia goes, yep, then I trust Mia. Now, every once in a while, we'll double check if there's a kid that we think might be cheating, and we'll go over there and double check to make sure that you actually have the thing written down that you said you have written down. And if you don't, then we have to be mean to you. Just like, let's say James says, yep, I wrote down dinosaur. I showed it to Mia. I go, Mia? Mia goes, yep, he showed it to me. And we go over and look, and he wrote down chicken nuggets. Mia also loses points, because then she lied to cover him. So make sure you have seen the word, because if you lie to cover somebody, you are just as guilty as they are. Here's how your points are going to work. So, let's say Gage gives his speech and no one can guess chicken nuggets. In that case, he gets 3 B points at the end of the speech for no one guessing what it was. When they get done, I go, it was chicken nuggets. Who wrote down chicken nuggets? No one has it. Gage is like, flex! And he gets his 3 points and you're good. If anyone guesses it, he gets nothing. So if we get done, I go, who had chicken nuggets? And then Kaylin's like, I did. I go, who did you show? He goes, Mason. Mason goes, yep. Kaylin gets 3. Gage
I think it's
gets
Callan.
nothing. Because if anybody guesses your word, you get nothing on that one. Then, if 2 to 3 of you get it, you get 2 points. 4 to 6, you get 1 point. At 7, nobody gets points. So, because it means your speech was not very good if 7 to 9 people are guessing it. At 10, you start losing points. So if Gage gives his speech, and his speech is all of, I hate chicken nuggets, I hate all of you, and I hate school, we should all die. And then just stops, and like 10 of you are like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's chicken nuggets. And I go, who had chicken nuggets? And half the class is like, yeah. Now you're losing a B point for doing a bad speech. If it's 12 to 14, it's 2. 15 or more, you're losing 3 B points. That typically only happens if you're the kid that goes, chicken nugget, and then just stares at us for the next 45 seconds. Or if you forget to say your word. If you forget to say it, I tell the whole class, his word was chicken nugget. Everyone write it down. And I'll go, who had chicken nugget? And the whole class is like, uh-huh! And then you lose points. So don't forget to say your word, and then you should be good. Gavin?
Are you going to give us words like and a?
No. It'll be like big normal-ish words. I'm not going to give you names of like people. Like, it won't be like Joe or anything like that. It'll be, again, basic nouns, adjectives, stuff like that. So, I don't mind if you guys talk between speeches, because you have to be quiet during a speech. I know it's not easy for you guys to be quiet. So, when this is up, I don't care if you guys are talking as much as long as you're somewhat paying attention. But when I need you to be quiet, here's how that game is played.
I like turtles.
We all do. They're delicious.
When'd you move?
When that screen is up and someone is standing here, you can keep talking. I don't mind. When that screen pops up, that's when you have to stop talking. When you see the one that says no talking with the little arrows that are supposed to be pointing over here, then that's when you can no longer be talking. But for me, I like to play a game during speeches. My game is called How Many Kids Can I Be Mean To? I'll leave it on this screen until I see you guys talking, and then I just go click and low-key click it over, and in my head I'll go, one Mississippi, and then I just start going, dunk, 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 and just start charging you guys points. It's my way of seeing which kids are paying attention to on chair and screen. As long as you're paying attention, you're good. Not paying attention, I get to torture you, and it makes things good for me. It is now going to be speech volunteer time. Home children, we're going to pause. We'll come back to you in a second because you get to see two speeches in just a moment.
We're guessing the word or is it
No,
the other one?
this was just a normal speech about a kid who did a horrible job. Yes.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Sure. Points.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I don't know.
So, it's about this kid.
That's him.
That looks like my dad.
That's
It
you.
does look like you.
Yeah, that is me.
It kinda does.
So,
That's you?
that's 9th grade me.
Oh, I see it now.
Yeah, that's probably because it has my name right there.
Where's
No,
it have
like I
your
see
name?
like the resemblance.
Well, it should be. It is me. So, in junior high, it's easy to think that I was always an outgoing, talkative kid because that's how I am now. That is not how I was when younger. Junior high me, I was the paranoid, anxiety-ridden, refused to talk, shy, quiet, sitting in the back of the room kid. 9th grade me, slightly better, but still hated talking. I got bumped up to an advanced class my freshman year, and I'd never been in an advanced class. And I was overwhelmed with all these smart kids in there, and it was throwing me off. So, beginning of freshman year, October, we had to give a speech. And our speech was going to be a persuasive speech where you try to convince somebody of something that you believe in, like for abortion or against abortion kind of thing. And I chose animal testing and being against animal testing, like where they test makeup on rabbits or they do like medicine on animals to make sure they're working on mice. And I was doing you should not test on animals. I prepared. I had my little note cards. We got to stand behind a podium because my teacher was not evil. And there was a girl I had a crush on in that class, Joanna. Joanna, and I had rarely ever talked, but she was in my advanced English class, and she sat in this area. Because remember, I stood here, and she was in the front row, like right there where I could see her. My plan was that I was going to give such a good speech that afterwards I was going to ask Joanna out because she was going to be so impressed with my speaking ability that she was going to be like, oh my God, we should go out. And I'd be like, we should. And in my mind, that was totally what was going to happen.
That did not.
So,
Is that your wife?
yeah, it is not. So, I step up and speech begins okay. I'm a little nervous, but things are going well. And I'm watching the class, I'm giving speech. Most kids not paying attention whatsoever. But as I'm going through it, I keep giving like little looks over towards Joanna. I'm like, talkie, Joanna. Talkie, Joanna. And like making that little eye contact thing. I'm like, I'm talking. And I get about 3-4 minutes in, getting towards the end of it. And I remember I got to a point that was talking about veal. And I had no idea what veal was when I was a kid. I'd heard of it. If you go to like a fancy restaurant, they have like veal cutlet and veal parmesan. It's like really expensive meat. Here's how veal is made. Veal is made from baby cow.
I knew it.
Not only is it made from baby cow, but in order to make the cow meat super tender, the cow can't move because the more you move, it builds muscle, and muscle makes meat not tender. So as soon as the baby cow is born, they put it into a cage that is smaller than the cow, so it can never stand up and never move. And they give it like a little feeding bottle like you give to a hamster, and it just sits there and feeds and becomes like a giant cow balloon, and once it swells up enough, you kill it, and it's like this really tender cow meat. It's a horrible thing to do,
so
but
sad.
really delicious meat. So I got to this part where I was talking about how veal is made, and I look over and I do my eye contact check with Joanna, and she yawns. But it's not a little yawn. It's one of those, like you commit to the kind of yawn, like a full arm thing, and it threw me off. Because in my head, I'm like, you're losing her, dude. Like, not only is she not impressed, like, she's falling asleep. Like, you're going to have to pick it up or this is never going to happen. And in my frustration, I misshuffled my note cards. So, I got to the part in Veal, talking about them being in these little cages, and I see her yawn, shuffle, and I look down, and it's not the right note card. And I have that flustery, and I went to the next one, and that wasn't right. And I went to the next one, and that wasn't right. And I start getting that freaking out stage, and I'm trying to push through off my memory, and all of a sudden, I start
Did you start crying?
crying. Right in the front of everyone. And I'm pushing, like, I can feel the tears, like, coming down. But in my head, when you feel the tears coming on, I had this conversation with myself. I'm like, you have two options. Option one, run. Like, the door's there, you throw the cards, and you just go, and just never come back, and you go homeschooled or something. And my other option was, maybe no one's noticed. So maybe if you just push through, maybe it's not obvious. I go with number 2 because I couldn't get my legs to move. So standing was the better one. So I push through. And I'm talking about the fact that there's these little cows that are in cages. And I just push through it. And I'm no longer making eye contact with anyone. I'm just like staring straight down. And I get to the end of it, and I'm like, and that is why we should not test on animals, because it's really bad. Thank you. And it's quiet. Like, there is nothing in the class. There's no clapping, nothing. And I just get my note cards, and I have that, oh, crap. And I just walk back to my seat, and I can hear, like, my feet as I walk all the way back to my chair. And I sit down in my seat, and I do the whole, I'm not looking at anybody. I'm like, shuffle, 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 shuffle. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep still. No talking in the entire room. And I'm like, someone has to talk at some point. My best friend John sat right next to me right here. And I could see him out of the corner of my eye. And I'm like, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And all of a sudden, he just like turns over and starts staring at me. And I'm like, that's not making it better. And finally, he just goes, oh my God. And I'm like, oh. He goes, that was amazing. And I went, what? He goes, I don't even care about my topic. My topic is about newspapers. You cried during yours. How am I supposed to compete with that? And I was like, he thought I cared about animals so much that it made me cry during my topic, and he thought he could not compete. And I went, yeah, animals is really important to all of us. And the class was like, holy cow. And the teacher actually wrote on my paper, I wish all of my students cared about their topics as much as you. They didn't realize I cared about Joanna. I did not care about animals whatsoever.
They're so mean.
And so they talked about that for the rest of high school. Whenever we had to give speeches in English, some kid would be like, do you remember freshman year when Brovicast cried? That was amazing. I'm like, yeah, animals. And I never told anyone the truth until I started started teaching. And I had like kids like, I can't give a speak. What if I cry? And I'm like, it's not a big deal if you cry. They're like, how would you know? And I was like, well, let me tell you a story. No matter how bad you think yours is going to go, you're probably not going to break down in tears because a girl yawned at you. So that was my worst speech. So hopefully your speech goes better than that.
Did you go out with her?
Yeah, did you go with her?
Every class always asks. And the answer is, no.
Did you
Turns
know-
out
Did you
that
ask her out?
was but that was a little too dorky for that. And apparently, digs us as much as you might think. I had convinced myself that every chick digs a good speech, and the answer is no. They dig good-looking guys and people who play sports.
It's okay, Mr.
That's
Bro.
nice. That's cool.
Yeah, no cap.
Yeah, but like,
So now,
Is she popular?
no. I mean, no more popular than I was, but, I mean, look at that poor fellow.
you look scared.
Let's give you guys an example speech. So now you get a chance to earn points off of my speech. If you can figure out my word, you'll get a chance to get points. Now, I'm going to need a brave person who can come up with a good word that I can use during my speech. You have one?
I got one.
Write it down next to my name. And then I'm going to use your word during my speech and see if you guys can figure it out. Don't tell them what the word's going to be. Home children, you'll do the same thing. You just sort of say how speeches go. Adjust this a little bit. That's a little high. You're gonna.
Wait, hold on.
Jefferson, what's so
Might
funny?
have to go to a different person.
Go to a different person.
Okay. Sure. Eco, write down word.
You're volunteering not to get any.
I had a good word.
Oh.
No, but you knew it, so.
Oh yeah. But that was
You're volunteering not to get any.
Turn your space down.
Huh?
All right. So I have 45
You have
seconds.
2 words.
Should I pull up my phone? You just said sorry.
Why? That's being
Oh,
recorded.
get that back. Somebody's here.
Bro, you're probably gonna say.
Do it.
Mr. Brovicast,
Uh-huh.
I gotta wash my hands.
Yeah, that's fine. Go on that side of it. All right.
What happened?
I don't know.
The pen like exploded.
Yeah.
Go!
Not that side. The other side. What are you doing?
My
This way.
bad.
There.
God.
This way. So that's kind of awkward. We'll figure it out.
Wait,
So-
I need to get a tissue. Can you throw it?
It's a tissue. I'm trying to figure out how to make sure I put the word into my speech.
You have 45 seconds. It's running out of time.
And
Oh.
okay. So at the end of each school year, I end the year by telling kids stories about me when I was younger and like connecting things to my life and how it impacts them. Last year, let's go that way. One of the stories I was telling was about when I was a small kid, and I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me, Nick. And we loved going to the Children's Museum down in Indianapolis. And we loved the dinosaur exhibit. It was like our favorite one there. So one day we were there, and we were pretending to be cowboys. Like you run around like we were two brothers and pretending like to shoot each other. And my brother got in trouble because while we were running, he kept going like between the people and like yelling, and they got yelled at. And one of the manager people who was there came down and like picked up my brother like by his arms and started yelling in his face. And I was write down your word. So at some
You
point in
have a
there,
brother?
yeah, I do.
What's his name?
Still Nick. Yeah, that part was almost none of that was true except for the part where I have a brother.
Is he 2 years younger?
Yeah, he is 2 years younger than me. That part is true. So then make sure
I
you've
thought I
shown
had
it to
to
someone. If you don't show it, except for Eco, you don't show yours.
That just gives her 3 points.
Correct. If no one guesses it, then she gets 3 points.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
I thought it had to be like a fairy tale kind of thing.
No, that's where I said it does not have to be.
Oh well, it's still fine.
Can it be a fairy tale though?
Sure, if you want to be. First off, we clap for me. I go, good job, me.
Oh, it's 1, 2, 5.
And then we go 1, 2, 3, clap, clap, clap. I appreciate how eager you guys were. We'll try it again. 1, 2, 3. Much better. And I'll go,
Hey.
all right, what
Get
was
it
my
ready.
word? And I'll tell you the word. If you had it, you raise hand, and we count how many of you got it. If no one got it, you're just like, oh, man. My word was people.
Yeah, right. I was like thinking.
I was about to give you points, but I
You
didn't.
said people?
I did. And
He said like pushing through them.
they're pushing through all the people.
Nice.
Eco, you got 3 points. Nicely done, because you're the only kid who got it.
Oh, I was
It is now time to begin speeches. Home children, that's all you get.